when you play 4 extra innings games in a row, eventually it's going to break. And last night, the bullpen finally did.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking a little bit about this extra inning game, the bullpen finally being overworked. One of the coolest home runs Adolis Garcia has ever hit being wasted, and just some absolute nonsensicalness happening in this baseball game last night. Before we get into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, the Rangers lost again. They have lost 3 out of their last 4 games. All of them extra innings games, and all of those losses have gone not just one extra frame, but multiple extra frames. This was a highly taxed bullpen. This is an exhausted team, and it's not going to get much better. But I want to talk about some great moments from this game first before we get into the frustration and the just nonsense of it all, because there was some frustration and there was some nonsense in this baseball game, but there were also a couple of moments, actually 3 to be specific, moments of absolute brilliance, and all of it came via this offense. 2 magical swings and 1 magical bit of base running. Actually, quite a bit of good base running from the Rangers in this one, just going ham on the base paths, including Michael Hellman, who worked a walk and stole second, and then on a wild throw that doinked off his own helmet, not just went to third, but went all the way home, because this offense can't do anything with a runner on third base in less than 2 outs. They cannot get a ball out of the infield to just get a sac fly. And Tony Beasley said, to heck with it, man. I'm waving him. This guy is fast. This guy has got to take this extra base. It will take a perfect throw from the outfield and a perfect fielding from the catcher. And, the Orioles got the perfect throw, but they did not get it fielded cleanly by their catcher, Gary Sanchez, and Michael Hellman, who takes off for second base, ends up all the way at home plate as the tying run. That was after the Rangers were already down at 3-0. They got the first 2 runs back on a Marcus Semien homer, an absolute mash by Marcus, who has been just on fire in this month. He has been incredible. He started the month with a significantly worse OPS than Josh Young. I believe it was a 150 or so point difference, and now he has surpassed them. He has a 668 OPS on the season, which overall, not that great, but that's almost 20 points higher than what Josh Young is bringing to the table, who had another awful day, 0 for 5 with a couple of strikeouts. But Semien has been just on fire as of late. In his last 15 games, he's hitting over 300. His last 30 games, he's hitting 340. He's only got 1 home run in those last 15 games. That home run burst kind of came in that series against St. Louis. In the next couple of weeks after that, it hasn't been quite as consistent there, but the batting average, the on base, has still been there. In those last 30 games, he's got a slash line of 342, 398. In a 30 game span, a 398 on base percentage is bonkers good, and a 570 slugging percentage. That is over the last 30 games. Even if you go for the small sample size of the last 7 or the last 15, neither of those are nearly as good as how good he was for that 2-week stretch where he was just unbeatable, which is exactly what this Rangers offense needed. This is the first time in 3 games that Corey Seager has not homered in a game, but hey, he worked that walk before that Corey Seager homer, so that did the trick. But the Adolis Garcia home run, oh my goodness, I could not believe it. That moment of brilliance where he faced 6 straight fastballs. And, well, you may be able to throw 5 straight fastballs to Adolis Garcia. The first pitch was, he probably should have done that on the first pitch, a 93.5 mile an hour fastball, about as middle as you can get. Runners on the corners with 1 out. Really thinking, okay, well, you're down 3 because the Rangers just gave up a pair of home runs in the top of that inning. And, it seemed like the game was pretty much over. Then works the count all the way up to full. Another fastball, middle, a little bit away. He absolutely obliterates this baseball, crushes it 108.5 miles an hour off the bat, 417 feet. No doubt about it. From the second it left his bat, he felt amazing. He stands on home base. He pumps his fist. He's screaming. He's shouting. He's raising his hands in triumph and rounding the bases like a freaking hero. And then the Rangers go to the 11th inning and, they aren't able to capitalize on that momentum. They aren't able to capitalize after that. Jonah Heim grounds out, and then Josh Smith pops out, and that is that. But he saved that game and let it go an extra inning, which, the moment was gorgeous. The home run, beautiful. The celebration, absolutely iconic, and just getting Adolis Garcia back to that confident version of himself. He's been much better over the last month or so, been hitting the baseball a lot more with authority, has been, having much higher quality plate appearances. Still some occasional stinkers out there in terms of plate appearances and swinging at pitches that are not near the zone and getting beat on a lot of fastballs. Any fastball up in the zone above 95 miles an hour, it's kind of felt like Nathaniel Lowe in his early days here with the Rangers, in that you just throw him heat above the zone or at the top of the zone and he's not connecting with it. But this heat he connected with, and he absolutely obliterated it. And just that aggressive base running as well, just being wasted. Heck, aggressive base running from Zeke Duran, who comes in to pinch run for the Rangers catcher in the 9th inning as the go-ahead winning walk-off run against Felix Bautista, who is a very good reliever, but is very horrible at controlling the running game. It hasn't really mattered for him because usually he's just striking everybody out, and so it doesn't really matter if you're at first base, if you're at third base, it doesn't matter. Usually you're striking out against Felix Bautista. He's not quite the same pitcher he was in 2023 before he went down with elbow surgery. Still incredibly good, but Zeke Duran coming on, stealing second, and then immediately stealing third to be on third base with 1 out. And all you had to do is hit a ball into the outfield, and the Rangers could not do it. They could not hit a ball into the outfield to save their lives. In the last couple of games, they could not do it. But hey, credit to Kyle Higashioka for working an incredible plate appearance in the bottom of the 9th inning. He has not been very good offensively this year. I strongly disagree with the Rangers continuing to use their catchers as designated hitters because of the situation we got into in extra innings, where the Rangers had to burn their DH. You had 2 teams who burned their DH. That led to some absolute foolishness and a Jack Leiter plate appearance, which, wasn't the worst plate appearance of the night. We're talking about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. It is so easy to keep track of your finances, manage money with a partner. Just look at all of your money and just keep it straight in one app. You're not juggling multiple apps. It is a great financial command center for you to see everything related to your money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Shout out to everybody speaking Locked On Rangers, your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back talking about the latest Jacob deGrom start. Maybe this time Jacob deGrom can go the distance, can have a perfect game against this Orioles offense that he was perfect against through 6 innings, had a no-hitter through 7 innings. It just was not quite able to finish it off. But if Jacob deGrom can give the Rangers 8 innings, my God, there has never been a time where they needed it more than this next game, because this bullpen is pooped. They are pooped. And they also pooped last night, which I know the bullpen blowing leads is frustrating, but this loss is yet again not on the bullpen. You cannot blame this bullpen for giving up the runs that they did give up. You got to give credit to Patrick Corbin in this one. He struggled for sure. He struggled mightily, giving up 3 runs in that inning, but he buckled down and he threw a season high for any Rangers pitcher, 110 pitches. And the last pitch that he threw, striking out the opposing starting pitcher, Trevor Rogers, because the Orioles had to burn their DH because Chadwick Tromp had to be removed from the game. And therefore, Gary Sanchez, who is their backup catcher, or I guess primary catcher, and also DHs quite a bit of the time, had to burn that DH and go catch the rest of the game because there were no catchers left on this roster. So for the vast majority of the game, the Orioles had their pitchers hitting. But credit to Corbin for buckling down and giving the Rangers 6 innings. They still had to cover 5 innings because this offense could not finish it off. They could not finish it off in the 9th inning. It was set up there. It was perfectly set up on a silver platter. And because the Rangers had to use their DH as their second catcher, DHing Jonah Heim, who went 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. What a great use of a DH, a guy with a 606 OPS. That's what you want. There's definitely no better hitters on the bench. Oh, wait, there's Sam Haggerty, who was just sitting around doing nothing. I do have to claim my error misspeaking on Twitter. I did not realize that Evan Carter was out this game at a funeral for his grandfather. Best wishes to to Evan Carter and the Carter family. Take your time. There are things that are way more important than baseball. It would have been nice to have him in this moment. Maybe the Rangers could have won, but there are things that are way more important than a baseball game or your job, and being there with his family, definitely more important. But that left the Rangers with a choice to make in the bottom of the 9th inning. They had a runner, now got himself all the way to third base in Zeke Duran because of his great base running. And up comes the pinch hitter, Alejandro Ozuna, who has had some better at-bats as of late, but this one, against a difficult pitcher, I will give him that. Against a very difficult reliever, you're not seeing a whole lot of 99-mile-an-hour sinkers and just absolutely just disgusting splitters and sliders to go with it. But the one thing that I've really loved about Ozuna since he's come up, he didn't face that much pitching above Double A even before he was called up. It was, a couple of weeks or so, maybe a month in Triple A. And there's not really anybody in AAA with stuff this nasty, because if they had that nasty stuff and they could command it for anything, they would be in the big leagues. And this is what it's like being in the big leagues. But coming up, and he has commanded the strike zone well, but this time, not so much. Ball 1. Strike 2. Strike 1. On the outside corner, just dotted a 96-mile-an-hour sinker. And then Felix Bautista ramps it up for a swinging strike for strike 2 and strike 3. Just could not even put the bat on the ball on 2 pitches that were out of the zone when he had an even count, a 1-1 count, just expanding the zone. All you had to do was just put the bat on the ball. Put the bat on the ball. Put it in play. Maybe work a walk. Because the guy before you, or yeah, exactly the guy before you, Kyle Gashioka, had just worked a walk. This Rangers offense being completely unable to score the runner from third base with fewer than 2 outs is maddening. It is a huge reason why this bullpen was so incredibly taxed this weekend. They had plenty of opportunities to just walk off the game, get the win, just put the ball in play. Just put it in play. Do something. Shorten up. Have a 2-strike approach. Or excuse me, have a decent two-strike approach, where your two-strike approach isn't, let me swing for the fences. I want to hit a walk-off bomb because that's much cooler than a sac fly. You are right. It is cooler than a walk-off sac fly, but a win is a win. And especially if he could have saved this bullpen from having to throw 3 more innings. If this bullpen only had to throw 3 innings in this game as opposed to 6, that would have been a huge difference. And maybe the Rangers should have let Michael Hellman swing the bat. I don't know. But it just feels wild pinch hitting a guy who has got now a 475 OPS in the big league, who's hitting 160, who went 0 for 2 with a strikeout. The other 0 for that he had was a ball that was hit to the wall in the bottom of the 12th inning, which just a few outs shy of being a homer that would have made it a 2-run game and still wouldn't have done the job. But that would have been nice to have in the bottom of the 9th inning because the Rangers would be having a win at this point. But alas, no. And the bullpen, for the most part, did their job. Jacob Webb coming in there pitching a shutout inning with a trio of strikeouts. Chris Martin coming in there pitching a scoreless 8th inning. Robert Garcia coming in there and pitching a scoreless 9th inning. I believe that was at least the maybe not the 3rd time in 4 games that Robert Garcia has pitched, but they tried to trot him back out there for the 10th inning, and he immediately lets up a bomb. Sean Armstrong comes in that 10th inning and gets a couple of outs, gets Gary Sanchez out, gets Ramon Urias called out on strikes, and then goes down 3-0 to Colton Cowser. And instead of just being okay with the walk with 2 outs and just facing off against Ryan O'Hearn, he throws a fastball right down the middle. The Cowser absolutely obliterates. And Armstrong has pitched really well as of late. He has pitched a lot as of late, and getting those 2 outs and getting the Rangers, some kind of a chance. But that one pitch, it's not that one pitch that decided the game, but it's hard to not look back and think, well, if he had just walked Colton Cowser and he still gets Ryan O'Hearn to ground out behind him, and the Rangers get out of that 10th inning with just a 2-run deficit heading into the bottom of the 10th inning, then that Adolis Garcia home run becomes a walk-off homer. The Rangers save 2 innings off of their pen, or at least 1 extra inning, excuse me. They only went to 11 innings in this one, not 12 like they had 2 of the last 3 games before this one. But still, it's hard not to look at that and think, well, if that was just a little bit different. And then Hobie Milner comes in the 11th inning and pitching his 3rd time in 4 days. And I don't know if multiple times that he had gone multiple innings in those, 2 out of the last 3 games he had pitched before this one. But dude's exhausted. He is entirely rubber armed, and he is very, very good at bouncing back pretty quickly after throwing a lot of pitches. He doesn't need nearly as much time off as other pitchers, but you still can't trot him out there basically every day. And it's not the 1970s. No one is Nolan Ryan. You cannot just throw them out there every 3rd day, have them throw 200 pitches, and then they come back, 2 days later and do it all over again. This is not the 1800s where you had guys like Cy Young throwing 500, 600 innings in a season. These relievers are highly specialized, and they have been very good this year. The depth of this Rangers pen has been very good. I was watching this game with my girlfriend, and she was asking, well, which one of these relievers do you trust least? And I said, well, it's kind of Jacob Webb, but if Jacob Webb's the worst arm in your pen, after today's game, he has a sub-4 ERA, and he struck out 3 in a scoreless inning in this frame. And if that guy is the worst guy in your pen, the Rangers don't have anybody in their pen. They don't have a Josh Hader in their pen who, unfunnily enough, he has been exceptional this year. And outside of that first bad month that the Astros had him, he has been very darn good. But that's one way to build a pen. And I think this Rangers pen is constructed very, very well, of just getting a bunch of guys who don't stink. And so you won't have very many games where the bullpen just absolutely blows it. They will keep you in games. They will do about what an average Major League pen can do. And some of them have stepped up to be a little bit better than that. Chris Martin has been a little bit better than bad. Hobie Milner, despite now having a 2.5 ERA, his ERA has jumped up 0.7, pitching 3 times in the last 0.7 points, 0.7 runs in the last 4 days because he has been worked so incredibly hard. And it's not just the amount of innings, but the amount of pitches that these guys are throwing that, there's very few pens. There are no pens in baseball who can keep surviving throwing multiple extra innings 4 games in a row. The only thing I ask for the Rangers in this Tuesday game is, dear God, win or lose, let it end in 9 innings. Because this Rangers rotation has been helping this bullpen as much as they can. The offense hasn't, but the Rangers rotation is not getting the immediate help they're expecting. With not only the Cody Bradford injury, but this Tyler Mahle injury is even worse than I thought. And I already thought it wasn't great. We're talking about how that affects the Rangers both this year and for years to come right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to get every game more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are just getting sunburnt on the beach. There's all kinds of different odds on FanDuel. Let's look at those World Series odds. Let's not look at the Rangers World Series odds because they're not particularly great. Oh, I just saw a very frustrating sight that the Houston Astros are now the 4th favorite to win the whole darn thing at plus 1,000. Tigers at plus 800. Dodgers favorite at plus 210. Please just somebody ruin the Astros' day in that postseason mix. Maybe the Rangers can start heading their way into winning the AL West or just getting into that playoff picture and maybe having another All-Texas ALCS. But either way, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bet if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Rangers got some not great news last night. A part of me wants to just harp on using a DH as you're using a second catcher as a DH, but I already talked about that on yesterday's show, and it very much came to fruition in this one. In the Rangers not pinch hitting Kyle Higashioka multiple times, or not pinch running for him multiple times, or just having Jonah Heim being that designated hitter and him hitting like absolute crap for the last 2 months or so. And same with Higashioka, who has been hitting absolutely terribly. But the Rangers got some deeply frustrating news about Tyler Mahle, who is not coming back nearly as soon as I thought. And I kind of expected him to be out for a minute. He has been out for quite a while at this point, and he is, quote, in a holding pattern in terms of his recovery and making sure we get him 100% right. That is what Chris Young said about his injury. He's going to need a few more weeks before without throwing before they begin a throwing program. He is dealing with, quote, a little bit of a right rotator cuff strain. They realized that during his follow-up last week. He has been out for multiple weeks at this point, and I thought he might be back by the second half after the All-Star break. Maybe that'll be fine. Maybe that's when Tyler Mahle will come back. And alas, that is not going to be the case, which is incredibly frustrating because this team is just continuing to spiral out of playoff contention. And Tyler Mahle is having a very good season. He's overperforming his expected numbers by quite a bit. When you're striking out, maybe not a career worst, but no, it's a career worst in terms of his strikeout rate for any full season. But he has the career best ERA. That doesn't necessarily line up, despite him, limiting a lot of the home runs. He's only allowing half a home run per 9. He's still walking 3.2 per 9 innings. He wasn't allowing any hits whatsoever in the first, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 starts of his season. The hits have started to come, and the hits with runners in scoring position have started to come, and he started to pay for his walks in the last few starts before he hit the IL. But he's still having an incredible season. And with the Rangers starting to be out of it, him being a free agent at the end of this year, this was a prime trade candidate. If the Rangers were just going to blow it up for this year, this was the best trade chip that the Rangers had to offer. A guy who would go out there every fifth day, give you 5, 6 innings of quality starting pitching, and could start a playoff game for you. This was a guy who could absolutely do that with how well he was pitching. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball for the first 2 months of the season. For the first 2 months of the season, he was incredible. And then a June swoon hit, and he has just not quite been the same before the Rangers placed him on the IL, and him missing just a little minor issue. It's going to be about a month and a half, basically 2 months, that he is going to be out. That is not a little bit. That's a third of the season. He has already missed, 3 weeks or so at this point. Maybe it's just 2.5 weeks. It's been quite a while at this point that Tyler Mahle is going to be out, and he's going to be out for another month. And the Rangers not being able to trade him at the deadline, it might force them to just stay in it at this point. It might force them, because they don't have that many appealing trade chips. Right, you can just deal off and try and come back and win next year, unless the Rangers just want to completely blow it up, which I don't think they do. They still have Nathan Eovaldi. They still have Jacob deGrom they have Evo for 2 more years, and deGrom, I believe they have for maybe that's 2 more years at this point as well. Maybe there's a third year tacked on to Jacob deGrom, depending on how well he pitches over the rest of this season and next season, and maybe the season after that, with some of the incentives for a possible 6th year on that contract option. But we'll get there when we get there. But this might just kind of force this Rangers team into staying in it, hoping they strike some luck down the stretch, and the offense just remembers, oh, I'm actually a Major League Baseball hitter. I can actually hit the baseball good, because this pitching staff has been heroic all season long. The bullpen, the rotation, everybody that has pitched this season, outside of Tucker Barnhart, who did his best, but was not particularly great. But everybody on this big league roster right now, and pretty much everyone that's pitched all season, outside of basically just Gerson Garabito and a little bit of Dane Dunning. Even Dunning has done a decent job of eating some innings. The Rangers ERA leader right now is Zeke Duran with a 0 in his 2 innings of work. I hope that he doesn't have to get too much more work, but if the Rangers keep going through this pen like they have and not getting, getting deep starts from their starters. I mean, the Rangers have gotten 6 innings from their starters the last 3 games, and the bullpen has still had to cover so much, and they're going to have to cover a little bit more, probably with Eovaldi's start on Wednesday before they have their next off day on Thursday, because Evo is only going to be built up to maybe 60 pitches or so at this point. But it's incredibly frustrating. It is incredibly, incredibly frustrating. What's more frustrating is seeing the way it's framed at times. I mean, the Rangers are going to be able to miss out on some of the more expensive incentives for Malle's contract, but who gives a crap? Honestly, it's not my money. And it's kind of insane seeing the way Evan Grant has continually wrote about the Rangers and the Dallas Morning News in general. Other people have written about this Rangers luxury tax situation. Why are you complaining about the luxury tax? I know the Rangers are trying to get back under it, but it is a billionaire and a massive market with a team with World Series expectations. The fact that it was written in a major publication, the Rangers at the deadline are going to try to stay under the luxury tax, just blow it up then. Why are you trying? Why are you owning this team if you're not going to go for it at the deadline? The Rangers right now are not at this point in their season because the offseason was cheap. The Rangers had a good offseason, a very good offseason. There were some more expensive pitchers that maybe they could have gotten, but what they got in the rotation, it's been really good, despite massive amounts of injuries to so many different starters, getting nothing from Cody Bradford, getting nothing so far from John Gray. We'll see exactly when he comes back at some point in the near future, if he is going to actually start or if he's just going to end up in the pen. The Rangers, have gotten a lot more than they expected out of Patrick Corbin, who they signed about 2 minutes before the season started, and a lot more than they should have been able to expect from Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. Nathan Eovaldi, who's missed a couple weeks, missed about a month, has been exceptional when he's been on the mound outside of his last start. It's the worst start he's had so far in the season, but the Rangers just needed him back there in this rotation. And Jacob deGrom has been everything you could possibly imagine Jacob deGrom would be. And the Rangers bought what I thought was the best bat to fit in their lineup in terms of free agents with Jock Peterson. And he has been both hurt and terrible. And they're not at this point because they didn't spend. But if they are unwilling to just Stick with what they've got, what they committed to. I'm not even talking about being a buyer at the deadline, which I don't think this Rangers team should do. I think they should stand pat and kind of see if they can play their way into, being somewhat relevant a month from now. We are in July, and the Rangers are 3.5 games out of the wild card spot, and they are about a billion games out of the AL West, and I have zero faith in them being able to do anything about it. They're 3.5 games back of the Mariners, who, if they had won, one more of those games, they'd be, a lot closer. If they have won these last 2 games, which they should have won, these last 2 games, they absolutely should have. Especially when you go to extra innings, you tax your pen that much more, and to lose 3 out of 4 games, all of which going to multiple extra innings, not just one extra inning, but multiple. It just puts you in such a rough spot that is incredibly difficult to dig yourself out of, and incredibly frustrating when all the Rangers had to do to avoid extra innings and get the win was just hit a freaking ball to the outfield. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.